welcome to Health Talk. I'm Julie Banderas, in for Dr. Manny. As a parent of a 3- and 5-year-old, I do know very well raising happy children is often easier said than done. Are you praising them too much or too little? Are you disciplining them enough? Trying to find the right answer can be exhausting, but my guest today says there is no right answer because every child is different. Katie Hurley is a child psychotherapist and wrote the Happy Kid Handbook, How to Raise Joyful Children in a Stressful World. Thank you very much for joining us. And you yourself are a mom of 2 children, so you have put this practice to the test.
I really have. I mean, I wrote this book because my husband caught me in action using some of my own strategies, and he said, "This is magic. You got to write this down." And
no,
that
it's
sort
true,
of got the ball
because
rolling.
as parents, we do try to exercise new strategies every day. Well, that backfired. That didn't work.
It doesn't always work.
What's the right formula here? I know every child is different.
Well, that's the thing, is that every child is different. And the biggest thing you can do is try to figure out what each child is made of. You know, really get in touch with their personalities and figure out who they are. Because when you tap into their strengths, you can build them up and help them thrive. You know, if you just set a bunch of ground rules and say, this is how we're going to do it, one may really succeed and one may really fail.
All right, let's give an example. A child that doesn't listen, because we all have one of those. What do you do?
Right. Well, and by age and stage, that can change drastically, right? Teaching listening skills is really important, and it can be done really young. And, you know, I always encourage parents to really make sure that they're listening. You know, we live in such a digital world. I'm guilty of having my phone around all the time because of my work. Everybody is.
Guilty as well.
But, you know, if we want to teach our kids to listen, we need to learn how to slow down and listen. So when they're speaking to us, getting down to their eye level, getting down on our knees to their eye level, you know, using nonverbal cues, nodding our heads, repeating things back to them. And when we're speaking to them, asking them to repeat back what they've heard so that we're making sure we're understanding each other.
Do you feel like kids are not spending enough time with one another? I mean, what do you think we're doing wrong as far as helping our children develop these social skills that are so important when they grow up?
Well, I think the biggest difference right now is that kids are really play deprived. They're doing a lot of things. You know, they're doing, 3-year-olds are playing soccer, which sort of is absurd when you step back and look at it.
It's true.
But because everybody's doing it, child has sort of become this big business, and there's all these things and opportunities. You can take a cooking class if you're 4. I mean, do you need a cooking class?
I've been in all of these. I am guilty as charged.
I know. I mean, I'm surrounded by it too, and it's really hard to resist the pull.
Yeah.
But the big difference between kids today and kids 20, 30 years ago is that 20, 30 years ago, they were fueled by play and nature. And today, they're kind of fueled by stress and pressure. And they're doing all of these activities, and they're constantly being overseen by adults in telling them what to do and how to do it. When they're engaged in just unstructured play, either with each other or on their own, they're problem solving, they're learning social skills, they're working things out independently.
What about kids that you see in news stories? Because often we'll hear about these tragic stories of these children that grow up with troubled lives. And then you wonder, could the parent have done anything to prevent that?
A lot of times what you see is that those kids lack any sort of empathy. They really can't think about how their actions affect other people. A lot of times the stories start to unravel how they were treated as children, either by parents or by other kids. I think we do have a tendency in this country to sort of minimize problems. We say to kids all the time, just get over it, just shake it off, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. But sometimes things are a really big deal to kids. And, you know, as adults, when something's a really big deal, we want someone to listen to us and to say, oh, I get it, you're having a really hard day. And if someone were to say to us, just shake it off, just get over yourself, that feels bad.
Yeah.
So when we do that to kids, then they sort of grow into adults who do the same thing and who say, you know, forget about it, your feelings don't matter.
You also say to teach them forgiveness, and that's something that we need as adults, and it needs to start very early.
We do, and, you know, we sort of follow this script in parenting, like, oh, you made a mistake, say you're sorry. Okay, so you say you forgive them. And what we teach them is to gloss over it and just get over it and move on. You know, forgiveness isn't about just letting people off the hook and moving on, right? It's about letting go of negative emotion, because when we carry around pent-up negative emotion, that can affect our whole day. It can change everything. It can get us into a negative thought cycle, and that can happen with even 3-year-olds. So when we teach them to work through something and to let go, even if they don't want to play with that kid anymore for the rest of the day or for the rest of the week, fine. But at least, like, find a way to work through those emotions.
Something you say I think is very fascinating is that you believe that children who are empathetic can actually avoid negative peer pressure. And boy, isn't that a mother's dream come true?
Absolutely. Amazing. That's, you know, what the research is starting to show is that kids who have high levels of empathy are change makers. They they can stand up to the bullies. They can just stand up and be self-confident and walk away and know that they're doing the right thing. So that's a huge piece. I mean, Harvard, their Graduate School of Education, did this study, the Making Caring Common project, and they're still working on that, and it's evolving. And what they're finding is that that, kids, when kids are taught empathy, they really are stronger and more pro-social and more willing to help other kids.
So then how can we raise empathetic children, and how can we teach our kids not to turn into bullies?
Well, the first thing that we can do that's really important is we can model it all the time, and that's really hard because everybody has a bad day. I always say to parents, if you have a bad day and you've yelled at someone in front of your kids, give yourself a break, let yourself off the hook, just talk to your kids about it and say, hey, this is what happened and this is why I felt upset. And I have feelings too. I'm a grown up, but that doesn't mean I don't have feelings and I don't sometimes get upset. But modeling empathy is really huge. And we can do that on a big level. We can do it on a small level. Even just helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries is modeling empathy. Like, oh, this is something that's hard for you. I can help you out and be kind, and I can help you and I feel good and you feel good. And really talking to kids about that. Talk about what it's like to be someone who thinks about someone else.
All right. Where can people get more information on your book and how to get the book, the Happy Kid Handbook?
The book is available everywhere right now. You can go to my website, practicalkatie.com, and there's tons of information there.
Katie Hurley, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thanks so much for having me.
And if you have a health question, send an email to drmanny@foxnews.com. Until next time, I'm Julie Banderas.